Also, pause the video momentarily to consider the question and chart very carefully. You get the picture? That was a pun, folks, laugh here. With Celsius and Kelvin, you have just wasted more than 50 degrees, all of which could have been put to very good use. With Kelvin, you need 3 plus digits when Fahrenheit needs only 2 or even 1. Example, freezing point, 273.15 Kelvin versus 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Next, the imperial/customary system is easier to learn than the metric and SI system. That's right, you just heard that. All systems require some memorization and getting used to, but there are reasons to believe that the common argument that, quote, the metric and SI systems would be just as easy for the normal population to use as the imperial system if they were used to it, unquote, is likely wrong. While there may be some truth to that, it puts a much greater strain on the brain to learn the metric and or SI systems because they are based upon things which our brains don't do well. As stated previously, the human brain works based upon associations, so the only way which a human can know how tall 133 centimeters is by memorizing something which is about that tall and associating that number with it. The imperial/customary system fits in very well with what our brains do normally and efficiently. Sure, that would mean that we would have to memorize that 32 degrees Fahrenheit is the freezing point of water, but that's a whole lot easier than memorizing the seemingly arbitrary range of -18 to +38 degrees Celsius and what everything in between relates to. The imperial/customary system uses what our brains do normally and automatically and allows us to project and visualize things which we haven't even seen before. Very little memorization is required for this system. Now then, the shocker part and my response to all the pro-metric/SI people who make such a big deal about conversion and conversion speed. Conversion is of little, if any, importance. Of course, in science and math and the like, conversion and conversion speed may be very significant as is precision, but in everyday life, it's of little, if any, consequence. The imperial system was made for why we need measurements, visualization. Every unit of measurement has been made just right for a precise range. The flaw of that is that the different units don't have simple convertibility, but why would that be a necessary everyday element? Assuming that you are just a regular Joe and not a scientist or the like, in your entire life thus far, how many times had you needed conversion? Not very many, if any. If it is smaller than an inch, you use centimeters or millimeters. If it is about your hand size, the size of your laptop, or your desktop computer, or the like, you use inches. If it is too big for 12 inches or your desk, you use feet. If you're doing football, running exercises, or something similar to those things, you use yards. And if you're looking at a map which represents a great enough area, driving, flying, or going across the country, you use miles. But most folks are more likely to use time for trips and such. Each unit was designed for a precise range, and they serve those ranges very well, and thus cutting down on those overly big, small, or many-digited numbers. You need to convert almost exclusively 90+% of the time because someone wants the metric and or SI systems and talks about how great their conversion speed is, particularly on the internet. Many may say that the metric and or SI systems would be easy to learn, but those systems are based upon things which the human brain is bad at and put more strain on the brain as there are few things, if anything, to associate them with. So when someone says something like, quote, the metric system is faster with conversion, unquote, simply ask, what use would I have for that in my everyday life when I measure my height/weight, order my meat, check the thermostat, or order my good beer? If you still have any doubts about the values of the imperial/customary system, then consider the following. All predominantly English-speaking countries which were once members of or associated with the Great British Empire or Great Britain in general. Jolly old England, dear old Ireland, the Highlands of Scotland, the Stars and Stripes of the United States of America, the provinces and territories of Canada, the land from down under, Australia, and the shores of New Zealand. Let me ask you guys something. When you go into your pubs, taverns, bars, let's just call them beer houses for the sake of my point, what do you ask for/order? You ask for a draft, pint, bottle, cup, a big cup, a mug, etc. of beer. Why so? Because those are the most common units which you receive your beer in, and it is much easier to remember a physical cup, pint cup, bottle, etc., which you can see and hold, as opposed to 335 milliliters, which you can neither see nor hold. And makers and sellers of alcoholic beverages, isn't it easier to remember and say to your coworkers/the boss something like, quote, we sold 25 barrels of wine today, unquote, as opposed to, quote, we sold 1,466.75 liters of wine today, unquote. And for cooking, what's easier in terms of numbers to follow? Warning, this is just a numbers example. Don't use this recipe in actual cooking. 10 jumbo onions, i.e. 160 ounces, 2 teaspoons of vinegar, 5.5 tablespoons of vegetable oil, 3 cups of milk, 2 quarts of orange juice, and 3 gallons of radish juice, or 4,535 decimal point 92 grams of jumbo onion, 9 decimal point 85,784 milliliters of vinegar, 81 decimal point 3,272 milliliters of vegetable oil, 720 milliliters of milk, 1 decimal point 89,271 liters of orange juice, and 11 decimal point 3,562 liters of radish juice. If you want to go even further, then consider Canada. They still use the foot when doing construction, and consider England. Go into a shop and you can ask for a pound or 100 grams of cheese. Both pounds and kilograms are used for the price of fruit. Food packaging has grams and kilograms, while milk has pints and liters. The road signs have miles, but petrol prices are given in pounds, the English money system, per liter, and the engine efficiency uses miles per gallon. People usually use feet and stones for height and weight. Computer and TV screens use inches, although some have centimeters. If you study a science-based subject in school, you get the metric system because conversions are easier that way. And temperature uses both Celsius and Fahrenheit. Why so? Because it's the most efficient philosophy to measure their stuff with. Use the unit which takes the least amount of effort for and most accurately represents the intended task. Saying that any one system is better than the others is like saying that saws are better than hammers. If you mean for a particular task, that's a different story. Just because the metric and SI systems are conversion friendly and are global, these truths do not make them better systems for everyday purposes. What if the meter is too big and the centimeter is too short? What if when you want to divide the kilogram into parts, you end up with too many decimals? What if when you use milliliters, you end up with more than 100? This is why many predominantly English-speaking countries still use some trace of the imperial system with metric. Any one system is not enough. All three serve a unique purpose effectively, and it would be foolhardy to chuck one in favor of another. Again, conversion and conversion speed are good for math and science, but for everyday life, the metric and SI systems as a whole, not every individual unit mind you, are no good. Why? Because they both have too many missing places, gaps, and/or holes in essential spots.